Hello watch enthusiasts. Now today I'd like to talk about the best wristwatches under £2,000. And this is partially because I made a video of watches under £1,000, and that received quite a lot of positive mention. So this is the follow-up, which is the progression, I suppose, up to £2,000. And in this price bracket there are a lot of different watches and different approaches to wristwatches, whereas in the lower price brackets one tends to see a lot of ETA movements used, whereas here you see ETA with features and equally in-house movements with perhaps less features, and that very much is a personal choice. Now the first watch which I'd like to talk about is the Zin 356 pilot's watch, and this is really a benchmark of German timepieces in terms of aviation watches, and in my opinion is a very attractive watch. But this incorporates very modern and very old-fashioned styles. So, for example, those hands and those numerals are very old-fashioned. They remind one of wristwatches from the 1950s and 60s. But equally, the case design, that bead-blasted finish, and the generally high-quality and high-precision cut of the case does make this watch appear very modern as well. However, it's in sheer features that this watch really excels. So this watch is a tool watch to the core. It's not made to have anything superfluous on it, which is something I appreciate actually. It does render a watch perhaps more elegant in that it is real form following function. The movement inside this watch is a Sellita SW500, which is a competitor to the ETA 7750, so the Valjoux chronograph movement, and it offers on the base of things very similar features, but again it won't have those very high ETA service prices, which is again a helpful feature. And of course it has a tri-compax chronograph layout, which is vertically mounted rather than horizontally, with the day and the date, again on that right-hand side of the face, making this watch quite cluttered and busy, but again actually very, very legible and very clear. This watch is also certified to be shock-resistant and anti-magnetic. Again, these are important things for a pilot's watch and any sports watch really. Making this watch a very reliable companion in the cockpit and in business, I suppose. If you're working with this watch, the bumps and scratches of daily life won't be a problem for this watch. Water resistance is also high at 100 meters, making this watch perfectly fine for swimming, though not diving, obviously. But it does give a certain practicality. Now the base price for this watch, with the leather strap and the acrylic crystal, is £1,400 or so. This then does go up if you want, for example, the Sapphire Sandwich version. That's not the official name, but it explains what it is. So it has a sapphire crystal and then sapphire caseback. But many people tend to go for the acrylic and solid caseback because it's more true to the original. Also, bear in mind that the acrylic will be more shock resistant than the sapphire, making it possibly more practical in a work sort of setup. Now with this watch, I have perfect confidence in this watch being a perfect watch for daily wear as well as more challenging activities, because Zin are known for making these high performance watches, which really outperform things well above their price, so it really is a very reputable brand. Now the second watch on this list, for around £1,400 too, is the Zin U1, and this is again a watch from Zin. You'll notice I have great admiration for the brand, and I'm impressed by their quality. But again, this offers fantastic features if you want a watch which is perfectly rugged and capable in most situations. So this watch is a 1,000-metre diver, which is no mean feat, in a submarine steel corrosion-resistant case. And if you want that submarine steel to be even harder than normal steel, you can have the whole watch tegamented, which makes the watch 4 times harder than normal steel. Now this is done as standard on the bezel, as that's the highest, the part of the watch with the highest risk of impact and scratch. Like the 356, the entire case is bead blasted to give that very uniform look, while still giving it a sharp appearance too. The bezel is also highly legible, and with a lume pip at 12 o'clock, although the new versions do have lume all the way round on the PVD versions. The hands again are very legible, though they do appear very similar. Their difference in length does make them easily differentiable. The second hand is also loomed on its tip, again making it very easy to read in the dark. The dial is also produced in a very Bauhaus sort of design, making it very minimalistic and I think rather elegant. Now this watch is also anti-magnetic to 1000 Gauss, give or take a few, and that really does show an impressive attention to detail with regards to the durability of this watch, considering that most watches advertise being this anti-magnetic, whereas this one remains quite modest. It is also shock resistant, and the crown is placed at 4 o'clock, or you can actually have it placed at 10 o'clock, if you'd like, which again makes the watch even more safe when around the danger of it being knocked, thus preventing the breakage of the crown. If, however, you would still like a tool watch, but would like something a little bit more wearable on a daily basis, something slightly more aesthetically pleasing, then perhaps the Auris depth gauge would be a good choice. Now this is a step up from the Aquis and the Aquis Small Second, with again that 500 meter water resistance, but this incorporates an extra feature which in my opinion is very impressive. This of course has a depth gauge, hence the name, and this is an intake or an inlet of water at 12 o'clock, which then fills the tube, compressing the air inside it, and showing you the depth at which you are, which is a very impressive feature to have, and the fact that it's analog too, again shows an impressive feat of engineering. The movement inside this is a Sleater SW200, which is again their take on an ETA 2824, which is the same movement as is seen in the Zin U1, which is again a very reliable movement and one which is serviced easily and not as expensively as an ETA. It does also beat at 4 Hz and has a 42-hour power reserve. Now, where this watch is a nice alternative to the Zin is that it altogether looks more ornate, or at least more interesting, whereas the Zin has that flat finish, which will appeal to some and appeals to me. The Auris is finished really very beautifully, and I've seen this on my own Auris Aquis, but the finishing on Auris's products is truly incredible. In my opinion, this is because of the combination of polished and brushed surfaces, and the brushed ones have very shallow brushing, due to the fact that the case is bead blasted before being brushed, giving it a very light and very attractive finish. The bezel on this watch is brushed ceramic, and this is very rarely seen on watches. Usually it's either polished or, in a few rarer cases, bead blasted. In this case, brushed gives the whole watch a very different appeal, whereas I think that polished bezels tend to give a shiny look, which can sometimes make the rest of the case's steel look a bit dull. Here it contrasts the polished steel around it, thus making it pop, I suppose, all the more. The only downside, I suppose, of this watch is the integrated bracelet. Now this does mean that you can't use your own straps on this watch unless you cut them, but that said, the Auris bracelet and strap are beautifully made and really are very high quality. I wouldn't call the size of this watch a disadvantage, as it really is a tool wristwatch, but if you find that 46mm is too large for you, and many people will, simply due to the fact that even my wrists, I would find this watch very large. But I suppose for me it's fine because it's a proper tool watch, so it sort of works. But if not, then the Auris Aquis Date is a beautiful option if you like this look, would like something a little bit smaller at 43 or 40mm, and believe me, the finishing is just as nice. Now the next watches on the list are very much watches for people who want in-house movements, and these are of course from Nomos. Now, I'm a massive Nomos fan. I love their watches, and I intend to buy one, hopefully in the future. But there are really 3 watches which I think offer fantastic value. Now, the first is, of course, the Club. Now, this is very much their field watch, in that it is water-resistant to 100 metres and has that high legibility, very classic dial with that rounded case design which protects the crystal. The version of this watch which I'm talking about, really, is the manually wound version. Now, this version comes in at around £1,100 in standard guise, and if you want the date or the crystal case back, that will bring you up a few £100. But it really is a beautiful watch for what you're getting, and offers really great features considering the price, such as an in-house movement, which is really the key attractive feature here. Now, in my opinion, this watch would make a very, very good buy for £1,000 to £2,000. Simply due to the fact that it has very different characteristics, which means that it can be very, very versatile. So it can first of all be a dress watch, due to its simple and an elegant design, but equally with its 100 metres of water resistance and its highly legible dial, it can be used easily as a field watch, the sort of traditional style field watch, which I personally find very, very attractive. And those sub-seconds make the whole watch appear larger, I suppose, in terms of the dial size, larger than it perhaps is, and unclutters the dial. The case is also slim enough to make this watch a very accomplished dress watch, and has very flowing curves and a fully polished design, making it very old-fashioned and looks wonderful on that shell Cordovan strap, which is offered with this watch. And the value of this watch is really proven by the fact that that strap alone would cost about £200. If, however, you want a watch which is a dedicated dress watch, then the Nomos Orion is probably the best bet. This watch has a very, very minimalistic Bauhaus-style design, which, in my opinion, is very, very beautiful, because it removes all the clutter that one sees on a lot of watches. Equally, it has the same alpha manually wound movement as the club, making it again very reliable and in-house. The two versions of this watch which fit under the £2,000 price bracket are the 33 and 35mm versions. Now, 33 being a very small size for those with very slim wrists who want a very minimalistic and small watch, 33 is definitely the choice. That said, though, I would go for 35, because in my opinion it offers a good balance between size and comfort in these very minimalistic dress watches. Of course, the movement in these versions is the Alpha, again from Nomos, which is, again, it's the same movement as seen in the club, and offers really fantastic features, such as the small seconds, and also is in-house and highly decorated to make the whole movement very attractive. If anything, the most impressive part of this watch is the depth. This watch is only 7.25mm thick, which is unbelievably slim, considering a lot of dress watches sit around the 10mm mark, and in my opinion is something really wonderful to have a really slim, very minimalistic dress watch, because it epitomises what a dress watch should be, in my opinion. The final watch which I'll talk about from Nomos, as it offers really something very different to the other two I've shown you, this is the Tetra, and this is their only square watch. And in my opinion, this is very much a Marmite style of wristwatch. Some people love it, some people hate it. I love it, personally. I think it's a beautiful design which has been very, very well executed to make a square watch which I find very, very attractive. Now, usually I prefer watches to be rectangular if they're going to be squared off, but in this case I think the design of this watch has paid off beautifully. The sizing of this watch is approximately 30mm by 30mm from side to side, so actually at the corners it's much bigger than that, making it still a very comfortable size. Now, the case is of course stainless steel, and it comes in a various number of dial colours. Examples of these are blue, green, beige, slightly pinky colours. There's even a gold dial version. So there really are a wonderful number of dial colours. My personal favourite is the blue, because with those gold markers it reminds me of the moon and planets. Now, in my opinion, one has to go for the open caseback version, simply because it's been designed so beautifully to have it there, and of course displays that Nomos Alpha movement beautifully, in all its glory, really, with that decoration. Now, the watch is only water resistant to three atmospheres, so it's nothing incredible in that respect. But if you want a watch which is very, very different and completely original in the watch industry, then this is definitely one to consider. The final watch on this list is an interesting one, because this watch is, I suppose, the best watch I would say in terms of luxury wristwatches under £2,000. And this is the Tudor Black Bay 36, and it's an interesting watch because it's had a number of different things said about it. Some people love it, some people don't like it so much due to its small size. Personally, I think the 36mm size is wonderful. I tried this watch on a while ago, and I liked it very, very much. It's a very, very comfortable watch, but an interesting one nonetheless. Now, had I made this video a year ago, I would have suggested the Heritage Ranger instead of this watch. And that is a wonderful watch, and actually used now can be acquired for about £1,200, which is very impressive, but this is a video about new watches. And this watch comes in around £1,800 with an ETA movement, which may seem a lot, but in terms of the quality of the finishing, this watch really is impressive. So that 36mm case follows the same design as Rolex and Tudor style cases, so with those flat sides and curved lug tops, making this watch an interesting but traditional style. Now, the strength of this watch comes in its versatility. Now, it doesn't have the bezel anymore, which is to some a loss from a dive watch, but in my opinion actually makes this watch a more versatile wristwatch. Without the bezel, this watch now becomes a pseudo dress watch, and sits in a bracket, I suppose, between a Tudor dress watch and the Black Bay, meaning that it can be used as a dress watch due to its traditional design, and on the bracelet really does look very classic, but still retains those highly legible hands and dial from the original, and hark back to the Tudor Submariners. It is equally water resistant to 150 metres, meaning that you can easily swim and probably even scuba dive with this watch, which is again a plus. The look of this watch is very dependent on the strap, for example. So, on the one hand, it can look extremely modern on the bracelet, because the bracelet is a standard oyster-style bracelet of very high quality, which really does make this watch look contemporary and crisp. But equally, if placed on a distressed or even a soft brown leather strap, this watch can look like an old-fashioned wristwatch, like, for example, the Rolex Explorer worn by Brian Ferry in that iconic picture, making this watch look very old-fashioned. And then it can take on a different persona entirely when combined with a nylon style of strap in this camouflage design, which can also be acquired from Tudor. And this really gives the watch the appeal of the wristwatches worn by expeditions to the North Pole, as many expeditions did take Tudors as their expedition wristwatches. That unprotected crown does also add to the look of this watch, due to the fact that it doesn't sort of give the watch a set meaning. So often crown guards imply that a watch is a sports watch, while not having them implies a watch is a dress watch. But here there's the juxtaposition of having the dial of a sports watch with the inherent design cues of a dress one, making for a very interesting look, and I think a watch which will become a real classic in future. Anyway, I'll end on a picture of this beautiful Tudor. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please do like, share and subscribe to help the channel and see more content. So thank you very much for watching. This is Arm on the Watch Guy, over and out.